There's so many mods going completely under the radar in Season of the Lost, mainly because everybody is losing their minds over the particle deconstruction mod. Yeah, it's pretty great and is easily meta defining for Season 15 up until the Witch Queen next year, but there's one mod going under everyone's radar. Best thing is, it has some ridiculous overpowered synergy with not only other mods but also exotics, as well as 2 brand new weapons available this season. I'm honestly not even joking, you've got to see this for yourself. You're going to get the fastest back-to-back stasis supers I've seen for a long time, as well as the ability to pump out some huge damage numbers. Thermoclastic Blooming is a small, possibly underwhelming mod at first sight. It's sitting in the final column of the seasonal artifact next to a bunch of other awesome mods. It only costs 2 energy and is an arms armor mod, making it highly likely you skipped out on this mod when speccing out your artifact. Well, I think you might need to hit the reset button and pick up this incredible new mod. Defeating a combatant with a solar or stasis melee creates an orb of power. It's as simple as it gets, to be honest. Defeat any enemy with a fully charged melee and you'll create an orb of power instantly ready for you to collect. Orbs of power have a number of benefits in the current sandbox, aside from just refreshing super energy faster, as is the most common usage. Ascendancy is the first weapon that comes to mind that benefits directly from collecting orbs of power. This is the new seasonal ritual weapon, available as a rank up reward from all good tower vendors and bad ones too. It's a pretty awesomely rolled rocket launcher, to be honest, with perks like impact casing to buff its impact damage, as well as impulse amplifier to increase its tracking projectile's velocity. But it's also the first weapon since the now sunset Wendigo to come with the explosive light perk. Picking up an orb of power increases the next projectile's blast radius and damage. This stacks up to 6 times and grants a 15% damage boost against all enemies. This puts it up there with some of the best rocket launchers in the game for damage output, as long as you consistently have explosive light active, which Thermoclastic Blooming is going to allow you to do so even more. Now, not only that, but there's also a hunter exotic that also gets boosted damage output by collecting orbs of power. Star Eater Scales is one of my favourite hunter exotics, and I haven't really taken them off since I got them from the Legend Lost sectors in Season of the Splicer, despite them looking like a fishmonger's supper. Feast of Light is the exotic perk, whereby you gain additional super energy from orbs of power you pick up. Whilst your super energy is full, picking up orbs of power overcharges your super, granting a burst of healing and a bonus to your super damage on cast. At maximum overcharge, it also grants an overshield. As you can see, it's got excellent synergy with Thermoclastic Blooming as well, because you're getting bonus super energy per orb collected, but also then increasing your super's damage. Feast of Light can stack up to 8 times with a full super and will boost your super's damage by 70%. It even works with the Revenant Silence and Squall super, which is exactly the build I'm about to show you. Now, before we get into putting this excellent combo into an endgame build just for you, why not hit the subscribe button if you're new here? I covered tons of builds and guides aimed at making the endgame of Destiny 2 accessible for everyone so that you too can get that loot. Liking this video really does help me out too, and is always appreciated. Why not join our community's Discord server as well? The links are down in the description. So now let's put this all straight into a build that'll get you back-to-back melees, overcharged buff weapon damage and insanely fast overcharged supers. Starting with the Stasis Revenant subclass, we've got the Gambler's Dodge to use with the Withering Blade melee, so that dodging near an enemy will refill your melee ability, granting near unlimited potential for orbs generation, but also both Stasis Shards and Elemental Wells, which we will cover later in the setup. The Dustfield Grenade will allow us the greatest area possible to also slow and freeze targets. The Touch of Winter aspect is a great aspect to boost your Dustfield Grenade's ability too. Grim Harvest is a must for any hunter build, as it'll create stasis shards when defeating slowed or frozen enemies. Collecting these shards will grant you melee energy too. Whisper of Rime is a perfect pairing here, as collecting a stasis shard will grant you an overshield for a short duration. The Whisper of Impetus is a fragment that I'm surprised still goes under the radar, so I'll keep harping on about it. But basically, it'll reload your weapons and increase your handling for 10 seconds on a melee hit. Whisper of Refraction grants you class ability energy when defeating slowed or frozen targets and is a perfect fit in this melee build. Finally, Whisper of Torment will grant grenade energy when taking damage from enemies. The whole Stasis subclass setup is based around getting your melee abilities back as often as possible, and it also benefits your neutral game. Now for the mods, a melee well maker is first up, as it will create stasis elemental wells on every Withering Blade melee final blow. Collecting these wells will grant energy to all of your abilities, but if you use the new Well of Potency mod from the seasonal artifact, it'll also grant you super energy too. I covered this mod at length in a recent video, but it's perfect for this build with its mass elemental well generation that will be going on. Elemental charge will allow you to become charged with light too, and so you'll want to chuck on the Argent Ordnance mod to boost your Ascendancy rocket launcher damage thanks to the Godslayer Warheads buff and its 20% damage bonus. Invigoration will reduce your melee cooldown when collecting an Orb of Power, and make sure to use Hands On, also available from the artifact at a reduced cost, to gain bonus super energy on melee kills. You'll definitely want a high mobility stat though regardless with this setup, and use scavenger mods of your choice. For endgame, you could consider using the Thermoclastic Strike mod from the artifact, which will allow your stasis melee to disrupt overload champions. The Fire and Ice mod will also spawn multiple stasis and solar wells when defeating a champion as an added bonus. I feel like I've modded the shit out of this build, but if there's any more you can squeeze in, then fill your boots. Weapons wise, obviously Ascendancy is the whole reason we've got this build set up in the first place, but also I've got on Vulpecula with a headstone roll for even more stasis possibilities. The ever-handy Null Composure is making an appearance too, which is really strong even without the Fusion debuff mod. Although many people are running it anyway, and you'll benefit from their debuff regardless, so it's worth chucking on a fusion rifle at all times. Every single melee final blow with Withering Blade, including the ricochet between enemies, will create orbs of power, stasis shards and elemental wells. All of these benefit your ability to drastically reduce your ability and super cooldown thanks to the combination of mods, aspects and fragments, not to mention making your rocket launcher even more heavy hitting. It's quite simply the most overpowered stasis build I've seen in a long time for both mass ad clear and the ability to deal huge damage with both your super and heavy weapon. You can definitely change some of the mods around, especially some of your elemental wells to suit your tastes, and with the elemental shards mod making an appearance at some point this season too, that could also be an option. But for me, this is absolutely the best possible form for both Star Eater Scales and Ascendancy. Remember, the Hothead can also roll with Explosive Light too, which is a Nightfall exclusive reward when it's in rotation, and will also have an adept version from Grandmaster Nightfalls 2 later in the season. Granted, it's Season of the Voop, and that fusions will take precedence in a lot of players' loadouts this season, but if you want a change of pace or to try something equally as strong, then I think this build is a solid choice. Let me know down in the comments if you've been using these melee mods from that artifact in the comments below. Remember to like, share and subscribe here if you're new, as it's always appreciated. That's it for this one though, so on that, and as always, thank you very much for watching and I hope to see you next time.